factoring trinomials can be done several different ways. What we're looking at is that we have three terms in our problem to factor. The method that I'm going to use as I work through these problems is actually going to be based off of the factor by grouping. So make sure that you've practiced the factor by grouping that we do when we have four terms. And I'm also going to refer to the worksheet that you'll find online that's called Factoring Trinomials. So you've got this worksheet that you can go and print off. I'm going to use those steps and similar examples to show how to factor trinomials. This is not the only way to factor trinomials, so you may have another method that works well for you, and it's fine to use that method as long as you are able to solve all of the problems that were suggested for you to do from your textbook. Let's look at the factor by grouping method for these three-term polynomials. Let's start with the example problem. X squared plus 15x plus 50. And notice that I have three terms, my x squared, my 15x, and my 50. If you follow along the worksheet that it was put online for you, the Factoring Trinomials handout, the first step says to rearrange, if needed, to match the given form. What that means is that you have the x squared term in the beginning, then the x term, and then the term without a variable. So we've already matched the given form. The next step is to identify your a, b, and c. Your a is the coefficient of the first term, b is the coefficient of the second term, and c is the whole number constant. So in this problem, there is no coefficient in front of the x squared that I can see. So I have to remember that the coefficient in that case is 1. b is the coefficient on my x, which is 15, and c is my whole number constant that has no variable. The handout then says to calculate the product of a and c. Product means to multiply. A times c in this case will be 1 times 50, which is 50. Now what we need to do is to find two numbers that multiply together to give us that product. But when they're added together, they give us b. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to give me 50, but they add together to equal 15. Well, let's look at some of the things that multiply together to give me 50. 1 and 50, 2 and 25, 5 and 10. And you can see very quickly then that the 5 and 10 would add together to give me the 15 that I'm looking for. Now here's what I do. I go back to my trinomial the way it was written, and I leave my first term alone, which is the x squared. I leave my last term alone, which was the plus 50. And what I'm going to do is rewrite the middle term. Instead of 15x, I'm going to break that down using the 5 and the 10 that I just discovered as my coefficients. I'm going to change 15x into 5x plus 10x. Now let's look at that for a minute. Did I change the value of my problem? No, because 5x plus 10x gives me 15x. So I've done nothing to change the problem except to change it from 3 terms to 4 terms. And now we have 4 terms, and we know a factoring method when we have 4 terms, and we call that method factor by grouping. So I'm going to remove what the first 2 terms have in common and what the last 2 terms have in common to factor this by grouping. So I remove the x, and I'm left with x plus 5. 10x and 50 both have a 10 in common, which leaves me with x plus 5. So since my x plus 5's match, I can remove those, and I'm left with the x and the 10. I could multiply this back out. The x plus 5 times the x plus 10 would factor back out to give me the original trinomial that I started with, the x squared plus 15x plus 50.